Man, after finishing these games, I tried playing something else, but ended up turning off the console. Some games raise the bar so high that everything else feels empty. These are the open world games that ruined other games for me. 1. Horizon Forbidden West. I remember the first time I stepped into the actual Forbidden West area, the way the vegetation moves and how the light hits those massive decaying machines. It's just pure eye candy. But it's not just about the visuals. It's the sensation of being a tiny hunter in a world that's technically far more advanced than you are. Aloy's journey feels so personal this time around, and the impactful emotion of seeing her struggle with the weight of Elizabeth Sobek's legacy really got to me. The gameplay flow is just addictive. Taking down a tremor tusk by systematically ripping off its weapons while sliding under its belly, it makes every other action game feel a bit stiff. I found myself just wandering around the coast of San Francisco, watching the waves crash against the ruins, and that's when I realized something was different. I wasn't looking for a quest marker anymore. I was just there, existing in that world. The only thing that ever pulls me out is when the dialogue gets a bit too exposition heavy, but then you get into a fight with a slaughter spine and all is forgiven. The detail on the character faces during conversations is so high that it ruined other RPGs for me. I started noticing the wooden animations in other games immediately. It's a masterclass in how to make a world feel alive and technically perfect. 2. Mad Max. This is the ultimate sleeper hit. Mad Max captures a very specific feeling, the loneliness of the wasteland and the raw, mechanical roar of the magnum opus. I spent hours just driving through the sand, watching the dust storms kick up on the horizon. There's a certain sensory impact to the car combat, the metal-on-metal grinding, and the way the harpoon rips a door off an enemy vehicle feels incredibly visceral. You play as Max, and he's exactly who he needs to be, tired, cynical, and driven by nothing but survival. The way you build your car from a literal pile of scrap into a rolling fortress creates a memory of progression that most games fail to hit. You actually care about that V8. This is where the game changed for me. I was low on fuel, a sandstorm was rolling in, and I had to decide whether to hide or risk it all to reach a scavenging location. The tension was real. What I didn't love was the repetitive nature of some of the base clearings, but honestly, the hand-to-hand combat is so crunchy and heavy, borrowing from the Arkham style, that I didn't mind the scrap. It ruined other car games for me because they feel too clean. In Mad Max, you feel the grease, the heat, and the desperation. It's a masterpiece of atmosphere that most people totally slept on.
Welcome to Hogwarts Legacy.
Number 3, Hogwarts Legacy. Even if you aren't a die-hard Potterhead, the impact of walking into the Great Hall for the first time is undeniable. They didn't just build a castle, they built a sensation of magic. I spent my first 4 hours just exploring the moving staircases and finding hidden rooms, completely forgetting there was a main plot. The emotional memory of flying a broom over the Scottish Highlands at sunset is something that made every other flying mechanic in gaming feel second-rate. The gameplay loop of attending classes and then sneaking out into the Forbidden Forest creates this perfect rhythm. The combat is surprisingly deep, too. Weaving spells together feels like a rhythmic dance of light and sparks. I didn't expect this moment, but seeing the seasons actually change from autumn to winter, with snow covering the grounds and Christmas trees appearing in the halls, made the world feel so much more tangible than a static map. My only gripe is that the world outside the castle can feel a little bit copy-paste in some of the smaller hamlets, but when you're inside those stone walls, the level of detail is suffocatingly good. It ruined other school-based or magic games for me because it set a standard for architectural storytelling that is just insane. It's pure wish fulfillment, executed with incredible heart. 4. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition.
We all know Geralt, but playing the complete edition on modern hardware with those updated textures and lighting, it's like seeing an old friend in high definition. The sensation of the wind howling through the trees in Velen is something no other game has quite matched for me. It's a world that feels morally dirty. You aren't a hero, you're a professional who's just trying to get paid in a world that's falling apart. The impactful emotion comes from the side quests. In any other game, a missing person quest is a chore. In The Witcher 3, it's a tragic story about a werewolf who accidentally killed his wife. It leaves a lasting memory of the choices you made, or the ones you couldn't make. That's when I realized something was different. I was actually reading the bestiary and prepping oils, not because the game told me to, but because I felt like a hunter preparing for a dangerous job. The combat can be a bit floaty for some, but the sheer weight of the writing carries it through. It ruined other RPGs for me because it showed that side content shouldn't be filler, it should be the soul of the world. After playing this, every other quest giver in every other game just felt like a cardboard cutout. It's a masterpiece of dark fantasy that still sits on the throne.
5. Batman Arkham Knight. Man, even years later, I still go back to Arkham Knight and I'm just floored by the sensation of Gotham City. The way the rain beads off Batman's cape and the neon lights reflect in the puddles, it's pure atmosphere. But for me, the real impact was finally getting behind the wheel of the Batmobile. I know it was controversial, but the raw power of that thing smashing through concrete walls creates a memory of being an unstoppable force that I haven't found anywhere else. The gameplay is the ultimate predator simulator. Perching on a gargoyle and watching the fear level of the thugs rise as you pick them off one by one is just peak gaming. That's when I realized something was different. I wasn't just playing a game, I was actually becoming the Batman. The way the combat flows from a gadget to a strike is so seamless it makes other melee systems feel like they're lagging. I'll admit, the Batmobile tank battles got a little repetitive toward the end, and the Arkham Knight identity reveal was something most of us saw coming from a mile away. But the emotional impact of the Joker's presence throughout the story is just genius writing. It ruined other superhero games for me because they feel too bright or too simple. This is dark, heavy, and technically a masterpiece. 6. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. If you want a game that makes you feel the mud under your fingernails, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is it. This isn't your typical save the world fantasy. It's a sensation of being a real person in the Middle Ages. You play as Henry, and his journey from a blacksmith's son to a warrior has so much impactful emotion because you actually have to learn how to fight, how to read, and even how to stay clean. The gameplay is famously crunchy. The directional sword fighting is a steep learning curve, but once you land that perfect master strike, the memory of that victory is so much sweeter than just mashing a button. I didn't expect this moment, but I found myself actually caring about whether I had eaten or slept before a big quest, because being exhausted actually has consequences. It's a simulation that respects your time by making every action matter. The only downside is that it can be incredibly punishing. If you go into it expecting Skyrim, you're going to get your teeth kicked in by a peasant with a mace. But that's the beauty of it. It ruined other historical games for me because they feel like theme parks. Kingdom Come 2 feels like a time machine. It's gritty, it's authentic, and it has a sense of humor that makes Henry one of my favorite protagonists ever.
Number 7, No Man's Sky. Talk about the greatest comeback in history. No Man's Sky gives you a sensation of scale that is honestly hard to wrap your brain around. I remember the first time I fixed my ship, took off from a planet, and realized there were no loading screens between me and the stars. That emotional impact of pure freedom is something I haven't felt in any other space game. It's just you and an infinite universe. The gameplay has evolved into this massive sandbox where you can be a pirate, a farmer, or a galactic explorer. But it's the quiet moments that stick with you.
building a base on a radioactive moon while watching a giant ringed planet rise over the horizon creates a lasting memory of isolation and wonder. This is where the game changed for me. I found a derelict freighter in deep space, and exploring its dark corridors felt like a completely different horror game inside my space sim. The grind for resources can definitely get a bit tedious, especially in the early hours when you're just trying to survive. But the constant free updates have turned this into a game that feels like it has no ceiling. It ruined other space exploration games for me because they feel too boxed in. In No Man's Sky, if you see a star, you can actually go there. It's the ultimate dream of exploration realized.
Number 8. Red Dead Redemption 2. There's no way to talk about open worlds without the king. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just a game, it's a sensation of a dying era. The level of detail Rockstar put into this world is almost terrifying. I spent hours just riding my horse through the Heartlands, watching the way the wind moves through the grass. The impactful emotion of Arthur Morgan's journey is, in my opinion, the best story ever told in this medium. The gameplay is slow and deliberate, and I love that. It forces you to connect with Arthur, grooming your horse, cleaning your guns, sitting by the campfire. It all builds a memory of a life lived. That's when I realized something was different. I wasn't playing for the missions anymore. I was just living in the world. I'd go hunting for 3 days straight just to see the mountains, completely forgetting about the plot. My only gripe is that the mission structure can feel a bit rigid compared to how free the open world is. But the emotional impact of the ending, man, it left me staring at the credits for an hour. It ruined every other open world game for me because the bar for immersion was set so high that everything else feels like a set of cardboard cutouts. Arthur Morgan is a legend, and this game is a monumental achievement. 9. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'll be honest, I was worried about how they'd handle the world outside of Midgar, but the sensation of stepping into the grasslands for the first time was just, wow. It's not just a big map, it's a vibrant, living world that feels like a dream. The impactful emotion here comes from the chemistry between the characters. Seeing Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith just hanging out at a chocobo farm creates a memory of friendship that makes the high-stakes plot hit way harder. The gameplay is a masterpiece of hybrid action. Switching between party members to pull off synergy attacks feels so fluid it makes other JRPGs feel turn-based in the worst way. I didn't expect this moment, but I spent 3 hours straight just playing Queen's Blood in a random tavern. I wasn't even progressing the story, I was just completely absorbed in the world's culture. It's a game that respects its legacy, but isn't afraid to be massive and modern. The only thing that got a bit much was the amount of minigames tucked into every corner. Sometimes I just wanted to get to the next story beat without playing a piano or racing a chocobo. But the sheer scale and the emotional impact of the ending, man, it's a journey that ruined other epic RPGs for me because they just don't have this much soul or technical polish.
10. Ghost of Tsushima. This is arguably the most beautiful game I've ever put in my console. The sensation of the guiding wind blowing through the colorful forests of Tsushima is something I'll never forget. There's no cluttered HUD, no mini-map telling you where to go, just you and the wind. It creates a sensory impact that is incredibly meditative. I found myself stopping every 5 minutes just to take a photo of Jin standing in a field of red spider lilies. The gameplay is razor sharp. The swordplay feels rhythmic and lethal. One well-timed parry and you're cutting through Mongols like butter. That's when I realized something was different. I was actually following the code of the samurai, refusing to use stealth even when it was easier, because the game made me care about Jin's honor. The emotional memory of the final duel with his uncle is one of the most heartbreaking moments in gaming. My only gripe is that the side content can get a bit formulaic after a while. You follow a lot of fox dens and haiku spots. But the atmosphere is so thick, you barely notice the repetition. It ruined other historical action games for me because they feel too noisy. In Ghost, every movement feels like a deliberate piece of art. It's a love letter to samurai cinema that everyone needs to experience.
11. Days Gone. I'm still convinced this is the most underrated open-world game of the last decade. The sensation of riding your bike through the high desert of Oregon while a storm rolls in is just incredible. But the real impact? The hordes. Seeing 500 freakers pouring over a cliff like a literal wave of death creates a memory of pure, unadulterated panic. It's not a zombie game, it's a survival game where the world is actively trying to kill you. The gameplay revolves entirely around your bike. It's your lifeline. Managing your fuel and repairing your engine makes the world feel dangerous in a way other games are too scared to try. This is where the game changed for me. I ran out of gas at night in the middle of nowhere and had to stealthily push my bike toward a gas station while hearing screams in the woods. The tension was suffocating. The story takes a while to get going, and the first 10 hours are a bit of a slow burn, which I know turns some people off. But once Deacon's journey into his past really kicks in, the emotional impact is massive. It ruined other post-apocalyptic games for me because they feel too safe. In Days Gone, you never feel safe, and that makes the moments of quiet at a camp feel so much more precious.
12. Cyberpunk 2077. I know the launch was a mess, but the current state of Cyberpunk 2077, especially with the Phantom Liberty expansion, is a sensation of pure future noir. Walking through the neon-soaked streets of Night City at night while the rain hits the asphalt is a lasting memory of atmosphere. The sheer verticality of the city makes every other open-world map feel flat and boring. The gameplay is all about that mercenary fantasy, whether you're a netrunner melting brains with code or a Sola with a katana. The combat is fast and visceral. That's when I realized something was different. I found myself sitting in my car, listening to the radio and watching the city lights, just letting the vibe sink in before starting a mission. The impactful emotion comes from the relationship with Johnny Silverhand. Keanu Reeves brings a layer of cynical soul to the game that makes you actually care about your dying brain. The only downside is that the world can still feel a bit static in terms of NPC interaction outside of missions. But the writing, the characters like Panem and Judy, they feel more real than characters in almost any other game. It ruined other sci-fi games for me because they just don't have this level of grit, style, or sheer technological ambition. Night City is the most impressive digital city ever built, period.
13. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. It's crazy to think about, but even after all these years, no other pirate game has managed to capture this specific sensation of freedom. The moment you step onto the deck of the Jackdaw and your crew starts belting out a sea shanty while you hit the open blue, that's a memory of pure adventure. It's not just an assassin game, it's a high seas epic that makes you feel the salt spray on your face. The gameplay loop is just perfect. You're sailing, you see a Spanish galleon on the horizon, you cripple it with chain shot, and then you swing over on a rope to board it in real time. It's cinematic gold. That's when I realized something was different. I wasn't even doing the missions anymore. I was just a pirate, hunting for treasure and upgrading my ship, because the world felt so rewarding to just exist in. The present-day sections still feel like a bit of a speed bump that kills the momentum, and the tailing missions are definitely a relic of that era. But the impactful emotion of Edward Kenway's journey from a selfish gold seeker to a man of honor is surprisingly deep. It ruined every other naval game for me, because they feel empty. Black Flag has a heart, a a soul, and the best soundtrack for a Sunday afternoon sale.
14. Mafia Definitive Edition. This is how you do a remake. Mafia Definitive Edition gives you the sensation of a 1930s mob movie come to life. Lost Heaven isn't a playground for you to cause chaos in. It's a beautifully crafted stage for a tragic story. The impactful emotion of Tommy Angelo's rise and fall in the Salieri family is so grounded and mature that it makes other crime games feel like cartoons. The gameplay is heavy and old school. Driving those heavy boat-like cars through the rain while a jazz track plays on the radio creates an incredible sensory impact. I didn't expect this moment, but the infamous race mission actually made me lean forward and sweat. It was a brutal reminder that in this world, life is cheap and the stakes are high. It's a linear open world, which I actually love because every corner of the city feels intentional. The only downside is that if you go in expecting GTA-style freedom to buy properties or customize clothes, you'll be disappointed. But that's the point. It's a focused narrative experience. It ruined other city games for me because it showed that you don't need 1,000 icons on a map to make a world feel authentic. It's gritty, it's stylish, and that ending, man, it hits like a Tommy gun.
15. Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl. There is no world as unwelcoming as the Zone, and that's why I love it. Stalker 2 captures a sensation of dread that is absolutely unique. You're just a small, fragile human in a place where physics don't make sense and the very air can kill you. The sensory impact of a blowout happening when the sky turns blood red and you have to scramble for cover is one of the most terrifying things in gaming. The gameplay is hardcore survival. You're managing your hunger, your radiation levels, and you're jamming weapons. That's when I realized something was different. I was actually listening to the rustle of the bushes and the beeping of my Geiger counter more than I was looking at the screen. It's a game of patience and nerves. The memory of finding a rare artifact in a deadly anomaly field is a high that few other games can provide. It's definitely a clunky experience at times, and the difficulty can feel like a brick wall if you aren't prepared, but that's the Zone for you. It ruined other survival games for me because they feel like toys. In Stalker 2, you feel like you're actually trespassing somewhere you don't belong. It's atmospheric, punishing, and profoundly immersive. 16. Elden Ring. And finally, the game that ruined everything. Elden Ring is the ultimate sensation of discovery. From Software took the training wheels off the open world genre and just said go. No map markers, no quest logs, just a massive golden tree on the horizon and a world full of secrets. The emotional impact of finding a hidden elevator that takes you down to a literal underground galaxy is a memory I'll cherish forever. The gameplay is the gold standard for third-person action. Every boss fight is a legendary event, and every piece of gear has a story. This is where the game changed for me. I realized I had spent 10 hours just exploring a corner of the map I wasn't supposed to be in yet, and I was having the time of my life. It respects your intelligence and your curiosity. It's a world that doesn't care if you see everything, which makes finding something new feel like a genuine miracle. The lack of direction can be frustrating for some, and the difficulty is, well, it's a Souls game. It will break you. But that's the beauty. It ruined every other open world game for me because they feel like they're holding my hand. After Elden Ring, I don't want to be told where to go. I want to look at a mountain and wonder what's on top of it. It's a masterpiece that stands alone at the summit. And that's the list. Those are the worlds that raise the bar so high that every time I start a new game, I find myself looking for that same spark, that same sensation of total immersion. Whether it's the honor of a samurai, the survival of a stalker, or the freedom of an Elden Lord, these games changed how I see this medium. But hey, that's just my experience.
Which open world game ruined other games for you? Which one made you turn off your console because nothing else felt real enough? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear about your post-game depression stories.